A federal bankruptcy court judge dismisses Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy case, saying it is in the best interest of creditors. Now, the decision exposes the former New York City mayor to lawsuits, foreclosures, and other measures that allow creditors, including 2 defamed Georgia election workers, to collect what they're owed. Giuliani filed for bankruptcy in December 2023 after a jury ordered him to pay nearly $150 million in fines and damages to former election workers Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss. I'm sure we all remember that, for defaming them through false accusations, saying that the mother and daughter committed election fraud while the 2 were counting ballots in Georgia's Fulton County on Election Day in 2020. Michael, did you see this coming? I mean, we knew that he was going to file for bankruptcy. That's a big number, $150 million. But I must say that I thought it was an interesting decision that the court said, you know what? You can't file for bankruptcy. You have to move forward, and all doors are open to you.
I thought it was a possibility because he withheld financial information. In the piece from CNN.com, it says Mr. Giuliani has failed to provide an accurate and complete picture of his financial affairs in the 6 months that this case has been pending. The judge wrote in his decision. So when you withhold information, when it looks like you're trying to cover up, okay, when it looks like you're not presenting evidence that is needed, things like that, usually things don't go well for you. OK, so I'm happy about this because this man, one of Donald Trump's thugs, put the lives of Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman in jeopardy. OK, and these sisters probably suffer with some type of post-traumatic stress syndrome or something like that from the death threats that they got and just the blatant racist lies that Rudy Giuliani told. So he deserves this and a whole lot more. Hopefully he ends up in prison.
Matt, what is your take on what happened and the fact that here was this esteemed mayor, all right, someone who in the legal community decades ago was on the cover of all type of magazines. He was America's mayor. And now this particular demise, what do you think actually happened with Rudy Giuliani and all of this? Because some of it doesn't make sense when we think about who he was and what he has become today in terms of this Trump loyalist that eventually got him right to this particular decision today, because had he not been so loyal, he would not have gone to the lengths that he did in order to defame these 2 women and really, as Michael said, give them post-traumatic stress disorder because of all of the death threats. Their lives stopped.
Yeah, this is why I love being on with you, Candace, because you ask me questions and answer them as you ask the question. You hit the nail on the head. And the answer to this is Rudy Giuliani is the exemplar of hubris. He is a lust for power, right? When you saw Trump scrambling back in 2016, running for office for the first time, and you saw these people getting close to him. I mean, it's crazy to me that Rudy Giuliani is a former United States attorney, a very prestigious position for attorneys. And he's now getting hit with $150 million judgments with defamation. And both you and Michael alluded to this, but the best part of this to me is the fact that we absolutely have to have accountability for very public figures who affect the lives of very private people like these 2 sisters, right? When he says something like that and it causes death threats for average citizens, he absolutely should have to pay through the nose. And I'm glad that the judge saw that this was a subterfuge, right? Filing for bankruptcy to try to get out of paying what he owes. I'm glad he has to pay it. And I think Michael's right. I think he will be in prison. I think that's the cost of not only loyalty, but a lust for power that's unchecked, particularly from somebody like Giuliani, who, in 2001 in that time frame was really, kind of an exemplar of here's a public servant, or at least touted to be a public servant who was really leading New York during a crisis. But what we know is that he's really just got a voracious desire for power. And that desire for power has him next to Donald Trump, who has sent him to ruin. And for good measure, you should have better discretion and you shouldn't consort with people like Donald Trump. That's what happens when you do. That's why all these people around him are falling the way they are.
Michael, what I find what is most interesting about this is that here we have Rudy Giuliani, who was sued for defamation, lost the case. On the other hand, you have the Supreme Court giving the former president, Donald Trump, immunity and having him say to himself and to the world, remember I told you I could say anything I want? I actually can. So on the one hand, you have Giuliani being, sued for defamation. You can't say that. But then Donald Trump, he seems to be in his own lane. The two just don't make sense.
Well, when you understand the Heritage Foundation and the Fairless Society, you understand Mandate for Leadership that the Heritage Foundation released in 1980. And the Reagan administration implemented 64% of the 2000 policies that the Heritage Foundation proposed in Mandate for Leadership in 1980. What's taking place with Project 2025 is part 2 of what the Heritage Foundation did in 1980. This makes perfect sense. You're dealing with the consolidation of powers of the president, the 3 judges, Supreme Court judges that Donald Trump got confirmed, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Those were names submitted to him that came from the Heritage Foundation and the Fairless Society. This makes perfect sense. These people are playing for keeps. They're playing into the end game. And we, as African Americans, we really have not focused on the power of the judiciary. We focus on the president. But there are 3 branches of the federal government: the executive, the legislative, which is the Senate and Congress, and the judicial branch of the federal government. The judicial branch interprets law from the legislative branch and interprets policy from the executive branch, and they determine what is legal and not legal based upon constitutionality. Now, the other thing is that all the powers of immunity that this Supreme Court says belong to Trump also belong to Joe Biden.
What do you think, Matt, will we hear any more from Giuliani? Or legally speaking, isn't this his last straw? I mean, he filed for bankruptcy in terms of getting out of this particular $150 million judgment. No more subterfuge. He can't waste any more time. He's not in court. He can't withhold information. He's longer in court. Bankruptcy judge said, no, you're going to go forward. Is this the end of the road in terms of excuses and what he and his attorneys can do to get out of this?
I think that depends on, a number of things, primarily what happens with his criminal cases. But kind of to answer your question, what I would think the next step would be for Giuliani would be to start squealing like a canary. I mean, singing like a canary. I think what makes sense at this point is he needs to cut his losses, because clearly Donald Trump is not coming to his rescue. Right. So he needs to start dropping a dime. Let me tell y'all everything this man done. I was there at the table. I watched it happen. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. And I don't know if that is because he's holding out hope that he's going to be saved by Mr. Trump. And I don't even mean him being reelected. I mean, just his machine coming to his rescue. But that's the problem with people like this. You get tied to somebody as depraved as Donald Trump and you get what's coming to you. And, Giuliani, I don't know if this is the end of the road as it relates to his legal issues, but I do know that it looks like him and a lot of these other people close to Trump have a lot of baggage related to what they did to stay close to Trump. So I think he's going to be cooked on the criminal cases. I mean, obviously, I don't know any of the evidence, but if they've charged him with a conspiracy, I would not be surprised if we didn't find a lot of information where Giuliani was intimately involved in the conspiracy that they're charged with. And I think the end of the road will be a prison cell.
I think that's a really amazing point. Michael, what do you think about Rudy Giuliani saying, you know what, it's time for me to sing like a canary. I got a good tune for you.
Well, yeah, I always thought he was going to cut a deal because Rudy doesn't want to go to prison. He's put a lot of people in prison when he was a U.S. attorney. And I could tell Rudy's a punk. He can't fight either. I could tell you that right now. He can't fight. So he doesn't want to go to prison.
You know this for sure, huh, Mike?
What'd you say?
I said, you know this for sure, huh?
Yeah, he's a punk. He can't fight. In Frank Lucas in American Gangster, Denzel Washington, he said the loudest one in the room is the weakest one in the room. Donald Trump is a punk also. He can't fight either. I'm telling you right now, he can't fight. So they don't want to go to prison. Donald Trump is trying to do everything he can to stay out of prison. Now, he'll market his mugshot. He'll sell that. Donald Trump does not want to go to prison. OK, neither does Rudy Giuliani. So, he'll probably try to cut a deal. I think he may be trying to hold out hope that Trump will get reelected and try to give him some type of presidential pardon or something like that.
That's going to be my next question, Michael.
Yeah. The other thing was, if I remember correctly, didn't he turn down a presidential pardon or something like that previously? Because the other criminals got presidential pardons. Roger Stone. You had people like Paul Manafort. You had some of the other thugs around Donald Trump. They got pardons. So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, Rudy does not want to go to prison. I'm telling you right now.
So yeah, Michael stole my thunder a little bit. Let me finish with you before we go to a break, Matt. It seems to me that maybe that's his last option, holding out a little bit of hope for, if I do get sentenced, I'm counting on Trump to get back into office and he'll take care of me. What do you think about that?
I think the bird in the hand is better than the one in the bush. And the bird in your hand is you have all the baggage. So if I'm representing Rudy Giuliani, I'm like, you don't know what's going to happen with this election. And moreover, your homeboy has not come to your defense. He has not pulled you out of this frying pan. So at this point, you need to tell these people what this man has done. And I say that jokingly, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of these people's relationships, but it doesn't seem like Trump is coming to his rescue, and it doesn't seem like the cavalry is coming for Rudy. So he needs to cut his losses and do what he can to tamp down his liability, because I think he's going to be in a prison cell.
Time to get paid, blow up like
Fanbase exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought I and if you don't know.